Drifting over icy mountains floating by. Drifting over icy mountains floating by. Drifting over icy mountains floating by. Saw drifting over I see mountains floating suddenly zooming home on an ocean deep, rousing up the mighty monster from his sleep. We're walking in the air, we're dancing in the midnight sky. Everyone who sees us graces as we fly. We're walking in the I'm finding
Welcome. Welcome. I'm sorry we're starting a little bit late. We were waiting for some cousins to arrive, and we were going to do family first, but we decided to do friends first, and we're going to go ahead and get started. We have a list where you can put your name down and spend 5 minutes, your name and time, and spend 5 minutes or more. to talk about your memories of my brother, my dear brother Les, and I'm asking for volunteers. Yeah, just. Well, when you start, yeah. Mansell Baker from the city of East Cleveland.
Good evening, everyone. First, wanting to express my condolences to the family and friends and extended family that we all see here gathered today. On the behalf of the mayor, Mayor Latik Shabazz, wanted to send his condolences to everyone in the loss of our friend Les. I will say one thing, it is quite hard to serve and subsequently be a friend at the same time you're trying to serve. So I was on scene that day to, I guess, lead the charge against the putting out the fire and coordinating our resources. But I was also there because I was a friend too. And so having been connected to the family through, some of the, adopted family and whatnot through college, it makes you kind of intertwined with the individual. But Les always kept me on my toes in accountability as a public official, and both as city councilman when I was appointed to city council back in the day. So I've had multitude of roles, but all the while, Les has always been someone that could speak life into situations and again, keep me guarded as it relates to decision making. So I just wanted to stand here today and appreciate him for his service to the community, his love for the community, and his love for people. And that is what I will take away as one of the long-lasting memories of what I could say is an awesome and beautiful person. So thank you for your attention, and again, my condolences to the family.
Hey, I'm Sam Stansfield. So I knew Les for a long time. When we first, well, huh? Oh, sorry. Just be a little higher, maybe. Okay, that should be better. All right, so I knew Les for a really long time. When we shared an apartment on Coventry in Cleveland Heights, he put a mother taught cello to many, many junior high and high school age students. And a lot of times I'd go over there after school to visit with Les, and his mother would be there with a student. And he always described them as sawing away on the cello. He also, of course, we all know he was a big photographer. He started doing that in high school. I remember him walking up to me at various times starting then, and whenever I saw him after that for a long, long time, he'd have this big pile of pictures in his hands, like, Sam, look at all these great new pictures I have. And we'd go through them all. And then the next time, a totally different pile would be in his hand. One thing we did, actually twice, we bicycled to Blossom Music Center. The first time was in the summer between our junior and senior year. We went to see Pink Floyd at Blossom Music Center. And we bicycled there from Berea. We took the Park Road and then down through now what's the National Park to get to Blossom. That particular trip, we had arranged for someone to pick us up, who was my dad, by the way, after the concert. And the thing about that particular concert, they never had Pink Floyd at Blossom again. They had people, they had way too few tickets for the number of people who wanted to be there, and people had rolled the fences all the way up to come in. But what I remember from that trip is afterwards, all of us getting our bikes back and then riding down the hill past all these cars that couldn't move on. The other time was much, much later. When he was working at, I think he was already at the VA hospital by then. But anyway, we had a much better plan. We rode down through the national park. We had dropped a car already, so we knew where we were going to come out and when it was all over and so on. That was a lot less hectic, but in both cases, a great time. So we remember Les as being someone who always wanted to help people out. And one of the things that happened when we were living on Coventry, we had always had to haul our laundry across the street to use the laundromat in the middle of Coventry Boulevard. And that could be a pain. And he figured out that there was laundry facilities in our building, but they weren't working. So he worked with the landlady and got them working. So now we had actual laundry we could do in the building. It's like helping everybody out. We lived in this little building that's still there on Coventry, kind of behind what used to be the Exchange and Grum Sub Shop. Had a little yard back there. There was about maybe 7 or 8 apartments in that building. It was kind of an interesting place to live, but I gotta say, I did not like living on Coventry. He lived there for a long time, though, before he moved out to Bryn Mawr. Oh, and one more thing I wanted to say, just one other recollection. Like the year after we graduated from high school, his birthday was in June 10th. And that particular year, the graduation from Berea High was on his birthday. So we planned a surprise party for him after that graduation. And what happened was a bunch of us got together, we grabbed him, we put him in the trunk of Gene Matthews' car and went off to go to this surprise party. And we're at the corner of Bagley and Front Street in the middle of Berea, and he hops out of the trunk and runs across the street, and he's holding the shovel. So the shovel, people know about the shovel, but a lot of people may not. Jean kept a shovel in the trunk of her car to remove roadkill that she saw on the road. So Les was like, "This shovel stinks." And I will leave you with that. But he is missed. I got to tell you, I just can't get over it.
Tell us about the paper route.
The paper route. Oh, okay. So he and I, between us, we had three morning plain dealer paper routes, kind of there in the Beach Street, Seminary Street area of Berea. And one thing is that he was a very heavy sleeper. Some people may be aware of this, but he was an extremely heavy sleeper. And to get up in the morning to do that plain dealer route, he had like 3 alarm clocks that would go off, each one progressively more annoying. And then, just in case, he had mounted an old doorbell button outside his bedroom window that if I didn't see him, I was supposed to push that button. And the button turned on a floodlight that was aimed straight at his face. So that usually woke him up. So I guess that's all. Sure.
So, as a reminder, can you guys all silence your cell phones, just so we don't hear that?
Hi, I actually have to read this. Anyway, well, those of us who were with the privilege to know Les well know that he collected things. It might have begun in high school when, prompted by the city's plans to demolish the old central school across the street from my house on Beach Street, Les and my brother Tim and many others salvaged the wooden floor from the old gymnasium in the school, removing the valuable boards and storing them in our garage. There were quite a few people involved, but Les was a driving force in that effort. Les was never a big drinker or druggie, but he definitely developed a habit of dumpster diving. He got his hits of dopamine with a particularly good find, like just expiring produce or chicken breasts that he could deliver to his friends and the local homeless shelters. Les had a regular route that he would take. He'd follow on Sundays after attending a Quaker meeting in Willoughby Hills. He knew which dumpsters to hit and when for consistent results. And Les he developed a detailed code of conduct for these food-saving missions, which he'd written down. He gave me a copy of it once. And it kind of reminded me of the code of conduct developed in 1894 by the hobo community, which calls for helping fellow hobos and never taking advantage of those in a vulnerable position. As we know, Les was known to ride the rails, which he loved. Yep, Les had a habit, all right. He had a habit of helping people. You see, he collected people as much as he collected discarded food from the alleyways of grocery stores. He helped not just people down to their last dime, but people down to their last relative, their last escape route, their last prayer. He'd give them a cheap place to live in one of his East Cleveland homes, the Bryn Mawr Estates, as we called it. He would help his tenants get jobs, get benefits, get to the doctor. He'd give them food, furniture, and much else. He'd give them hope. Les was nothing if not consistent. Once he adopted you or your cause, he never gave up on you. His support never faltered. He was a fixture at annual events like the Cleveland International Film Festival, the Paw Paw Festival in Athens, Ohio, a beekeeping conference in Spencer, Ohio, a commemoration of the 9/11 heroes in Somerset, PA, the week-long hobo convention in Britt, Iowa, and many others. Les was a best friend to my brother Tim, and in many ways, big and small, had been looking after Tim's well-being for nearly 50 years. Les is a fixture in my heart, and I thought he'd always be there, quietly lending a hand, seeing the good in people. He left us too soon. Thank you. My condolences.
Pastor Jim Davis.
I know I'm a little overdressed. You guys look wonderful out there. You do. Again, from Friends Church there in Willoughby Hills, our condolences to the family, really. I mean that sincerely. And Les, we have a lot of people at the church, right? But Les was one of those guys that was just, he was there. He was always there willing to help. He was always there in the community, but he was just quiet, quiet, but not real loud and boisterous, and I'll share this in just a second. But I'd like to share the scripture too, if I could. It's in Psalms 46, and hopefully this is encouragement to all of us. God is our refuge and strength, and ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way, and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, and the mountains quake with their surging. There's a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy place where the Most High dwells. God is within her, she will not fall. God will help at her break of day. Nations are in uproar, kingdoms fall. He lifts his voice, the earth melts. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. I often share with people sometimes that through loss, and it's hard when you lose someone like Les, especially too soon and the way you lost him, but it feels like an open wound, and it hurts and the pain's hard to deal with, but eventually that wound heals, but leaves a scar. And actually, I have a scar here on my face that reminds me of a very dark time in my childhood, but it also reminds me of God's redemptive power and how he healed my wounds. And and all of you, again, what a blessing. So many people that love it. And there's things I'm hearing about Les, and it's always like that at funerals, and that's why I love funerals. I know it sounds kind of hokey when I say it weird, but I'm telling you, I'm learning more about Les in the last couple of weeks than I did as he is a church attender at our church, and even as involved as he was, and faithful as he was. And so, we're all, having those things where it shows those memories, and that keeps his spirit alive, and it does, And in another psalm says, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of the heart. And I feel like that's the way Les lived. You know, God, and even like you said, all the stuff he did and how he's so saving this, doing this, and going after that. You know, but he was just so smart on how he lived his life. And I thank you for those who share, and they're going to continue to share. But you know, I think of Les as again, this is the way I saw him at church, right? But I know, you know, I was talking to someone at the high school with him and walked. It's just so fun to hear those stories. When I, you know, think of him, I think of a quiet and somewhat reserved, not shouting from the mountaintops. What I mean by that is he was an incredible man of God, and he loved and served his church and community well. You know, there are many stories of things that Les has done for many people over the years. And I find out about so many of those more of just the last few weeks. And I'm sure all of us, you know, collectively together couldn't come up with all of them, all the things he's done for people. I believe that his faith in Jesus spoke so loudly by his actions. And you know, which I feel so much conviction with that because it was incredible the way I saw his life. You know, you know, again, I told you I found some of those things, so many more of those things after he died. I found out more about him, about those things after he died than when he was living. And again, it just celebrates who the man was and the kind of life he lived. You know, he's helped so many people in his community, more than he did in the church. But that's what we're supposed to do. That's what we're all supposed to do, right? That's what Jesus called us to do, to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And I've heard just a little bit I've heard so far, and what we're going to hear even further, that's the kind of life he lived in. You know, just, again, some comfort, you know, God comforts us, right, in these kinds of times. It's difficult. Especially, again, guys, I'm a pastor, but I go through a lot. But I'm telling you, it broke my heart when I just couldn't believe it. But, you know, life happens, but God is so good and comforting. And I remember experiencing some of these things, and when you look at another, you know, and the Psalms are so full of some neat stuff. Just, you know, he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. And, you know, we think, gosh, how could God comfort us, right? Well, Paul tells us, you know, he says, he's the Father of all comfort. And all the troubles we have. And I lean on that. And I hope that encourages you as you continue to share and you continue to process it. And all this fun, all the incredible stories you're going to hear. Gosh, it's so awesome. And may God continue to comfort even after, you know, we're all back by ourselves in our homes and where we're living. God is the comfort. He comforts us all. God also comforts us in our troubles. He says he is faithful in all of our troubles. He says slow to anger, be compassionate, abundant in love and faithfulness. You know, and in 1992 there was a and I love because I think the Olympics. A guy by the name of Derek Redmond. He was in the race, and he had turned the stretch, and he was in a good spot, and he tore his critical ligament, and began to limp. A robust man fought his way, true story, fought his way onto the track. He threw his arm around him, and Redmond helped him finish. It was the boy's father. And I just share that because, you know, God certainly rushes to our side and helps us through sorrow and difficult times. And again, Dudley and your family, this is awesome. I mean, to come together like this and have this opportunity to share and love on one another and encourage, and all these friends or family, the different people from high school, childhood. I'm just taking it all and going, wow, what an incredible man. And to honor him, to celebrate him in this way. And you know, I just can't wait to be there with him one day in heaven because I'm sure he's rejoicing. Yeah, I like to close with this poem only because it ends well with this, and I'll just share it with you. It's titled, and it's unknown author. It says, "Miss me, but let me go. When I come to the end of the road, and the sun has set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not too long. And not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that we once shared Miss me, but let me go. For this, a journey we all must take, and each must take it alone. It's all part of the Master's plan. A step on the way home. When you are lonely and sick of heart, go to the friends that we know and bury your sorrows in doing good deeds. Miss me, but let me go. And I show it because, especially that, and I love that, and bury your sorrows in doing good deeds for others. And that's what he did, and that's how he lived his life. God bless you, and thank you for the opportunity to share. And I would say again, really, condolences from our church family, and we're very sad to, that we lost Les.
Thank you. I'm Pat Blahoviak, and I'm from East Cleveland. And being from East Cleveland, there's a lot of stuff that I'm hearing here about Les. That's okay. That I had never heard before. So I walked in and I got my mountain man information and the hobo thing, and talked to Mountain Man and Gypsy Moon about that. And frankly, going back to the events in Iowa and such, and talking to them, and anybody who's heard of Rushford, Minnesota gets points in my book, because that's where I lived when I was born, though I was actually born in La Crosse. But with Ross, it was really important to me to find out that Les had his honey sold at the Coit Road Farmers Market. And it's my understanding that when the person who was the actual salesperson for the honey came on some difficult times with his health, Les just kind of let it go, so that the honey was essentially a gift to him. And that was really a special thing. We talked about honey, and we talked about vegetables and all those important things there. And the first time I was at his house was the year that Matt was applying to be a city council member. We had a vacancy, and at that point in time, I first saw the house on Bryn Mawr, which is why I was surprised to hear him called Collinwood Kid. Now, what is this Collinwood Kid when he lives in East Cleveland and comes on occasion to East Cleveland City Council meetings and has his establishment, shall we call it, there in East Cleveland, where he was shall we say, busy with his things. And that was really a special thing. But I'm a member of the East Cleveland City Council, so I was familiar with him being there, but I'm also here with the proclamation from the city of East Cleveland from the office of the mayor, which I'm going to read at this point in time. In memory of Leslie Robert Hiller, whereas Lateek R. Shabazz, mayor of East Cleveland, pauses to honor the life of Leslie Robert Hiller, a resident of the city of East Cleveland for years, but grew up in Berea, Ohio, with his family. Les loved his East Cleveland community. You would always see him attending the East Cleveland Council meetings. He even joined our East Cleveland senior walkers every Wednesday morning. He always gave a helping hand to provide his neighbors food and clothing. Leslie Robert Hiller worked as a registered nurse at the Lewis Stokes Veterans Administration Hospital in Cleveland, Ohio, until he retired. Leslie was a member of the Willoughby Hills Evangelical Friends Church in Willoughby, Ohio, and always attended as a member of the Hobo Convention in Britt, Iowa. And whereas Leslie Robert Hiller leaves behind his older sister Linda, his 2 younger brothers Dudley and Gregory, and his 2 nephews Eli and Walter, and his niece Nanita, I apologize. Leslie Robert Hiller will be missed by a host of family, friends, and neighbors, but not forgotten. So now I, Mayor Lateek Arshabaz, on behalf of the entire city of East Cleveland, extend our deepest sympathies and special condolences to the family and friends of Leslie Robert Hiller. And then it says, in witness whereof I hereunto have set my hand and caused the seal of the city of East Cleveland to be affixed this 12th day of September, 2025. Thank you.
Everyone, so dinner is ready. We're going to do a 30-minute break, and then we'll continue the speeches thus forward. Thank you so much.
We're walking in the air. We're floating in the moonlit sky. The people far below are sleeping as we fly. I'm holding very tight. I'm riding in the midnight blue. I'm finding I can fly so high above with you. On across the world, the villages go by like dreams. The rivers and the hills, the forests and the streams. Children gaze open mouthed, taken by surprise. Nobody down below believes their eyes. We're surfing in the air. We're swimming in the frozen sky. We're drifting over icy mountains floating by. drifting over, I see mountains floating by. Sawdust drifting over icy mountains floating suddenly swooping low on an ocean deep, rousing up a mighty monster from his sleep. We're walking in the air, we're dancing in the midnight sky. Everyone who sees us graces as we fly. We're walking in the We're walking in the air, we're floating in the moonlit sky. The people far below are sleeping as we fly. I'm holding very tight. I'm riding in the midnight blue. I'm finding I can fly so high above with you. On across the world, Children gaze, open mouth, taken by surprise. Nobody down below believes their eyes. We're surfing in the air. We're swimming in the frozen sky. We're drifting over icy mountains floating by.
Everyone, I want to announce. Well, I've got some announcements. Voices down, please. I have some announcements. I want to announce some donation options for you. We have a QR code where you can donate to a the Greater Cleveland food bank. If you read the QR code with your smartphone, that will take you to the donation site for the food bank. And then you can write checks to the East Cleveland Canine Fund, and that's the little dog behind the fire here, in front of the fire here, and that's another donation option. We'd like to get some funds flowing to the East Cleveland Fire Canine Fund if we could, and then it's the hobo convention and the hobo museum. There's instructions in front of the hobo flag on this poster over here, and Gypsy Moon has hobo walking sticks for sale, and all the proceeds go to the hobo convention and the hobo museum, and anything that is donated to the hobo museum and the hobo convention will be doubled by an anonymous donor. Now we're going to continue our list with just one more of the friends, and then the family is going to speak, and then we will continue with the friends. Okay. Okay. Gypsy Moon.
Thank you. So I met Collinwood in 1989 in Logansport, Indiana, at a hobo gathering that was put on by Iron Horse Brad. He was so shy. I was so excited about meeting him because I knew that he'd jumped freight trains, and I had just jumped my first couple of freight trains. He was so much more experienced than me, so I was just really eager to meet him, but he would not talk to me. He refused to talk to me. He wasn't talking to anybody. He was so shy in those days. And so finally it was like the second day of trying to get his attention that I realized there was a magic trick. All I had to do was say freight train, and I could never shut him up. He just went on and on and on. So the next year, I was elected a queen of the hobos. And so within about 2 weeks of that, Collinwood and I, we all call him Collinwood, the hobos do. He and I had planned our first long freight trip. We were going to ride out of Indiana, all through Ohio, and it was about halfway through that long trip that I realized what kind of a friend he was. And I started then calling him my best friend in the whole wide world. So I would introduce him to somebody and I'd say, this is the Collinwood kid. He's my best friend in the whole wide world. And he hated that because he was shy and he didn't want people to ask him questions. Well, we had been on freight trains quite a bit, and we kept getting picked up by the railroad police, the Conrail police. And one day they tracked him down at his home in Cleveland. I lived in Indianapolis, but they called him and they said, Mr. Hiller, my name is Captain Owsley. I'm the head of the Conrail Police Department. I'm in Philadelphia. We can do this one of two ways. Either I can send my agents out to your address, we have your address, and I could arrest you. Or you and that woman who keeps getting picked up with you in our yards can come out here to Philadelphia and meet with us. And so immediately, Collinwood and I were on our way to Philadelphia. Now, those of you who have heard this story before will know that Captain Owsley invited us into his office. He couldn't have been nicer to us, asked us a bunch of questions. Of course, it's our favorite topic, so we couldn't say enough, you know. And then about halfway through it, I thought, he's going to arrest us. He is going to arrest us. So anyway, pretty soon, he stood up and he walked us over to his door. And he said, and those of you who have heard the story can say these words exactly the same as I do. He said, I want you to know that if I ever, or my agents ever catch either one of you in my yards again, I will run you through the ringer as hard as I can. That's how he said it. And he opened the door and we left. And as we walked out, I turned to Collinwood and I said, man, I guess that puts an end to that. And he said, well, hell no. So we just kept jumping freight trains. He was wonderful. It was so much fun to do those things with him. But it wasn't just freight trains that we loved. We actually, Virginia Slim, when we go back to the hobo convention every year, he taught us how to climb the stairs up to the grain elevators. These were like 300-foot grain elevators. And so Collinwood and I loved doing that. We would climb up and climb up. You get to the top, you have to let go of the rails and step over and onto the grain elevator. And so Collinwood would take his, alarm clock, and he would set it. So we'd get out our beds, we'd sleep up there, and then the alarm clock would wake us up the next morning while it was still dark, so we could climb back down the elevator without getting arrested again. So one of our favorite trips in the States was the Royal Gorge, Tennessee Pass. If any of you are rail riders, and I know there's a few here, you'll know how spectacular that trip was. And what an amazing memory we had of that. And then here we go. Well, Collinwood was pretty tight with his money, as you all know. If those of you who know him knew that he was. So one day I called him and I said, Collinwood, I got a question for you. He said, fire away. I said, well, I'll ask you the question, but first I want to tell you the answer. He said, you're going to tell me the answer. I said, yeah, I am. He said, all right, what's the answer? I said, the answer is you're going to say, Gypsy Moon, I would love to do that with you. And I said, that's right. And he said, but what's the question? And I said, would you go for a couple of months to India with me and let's explore India? And he said, yes, I would. And we had such a great time. We were at the Taj Mahal on New Year's Day. We went to the International Toilet Museum. I don't know why that was such a big deal, but he loved telling that story. We went to Mother Teresa's home for the destitute and dying. We worked there for days on end. We washed so many feet of so many old people who were dying. And I just remember how Collinwood was such a servant. And then another time, we went to one of Mother Teresa's kids programs for the street kids, and we volunteered with them. He just loved carrying them on his shoulders. He would run and run and run, and they would bounce. And some of these children were orphaned, of course, and living on the streets, but I just remember those days. We made a homestay on a Darjeeling tea plantation. We read the narrow gauge passenger train through the Himalayas. One day, we were back in the States, and I'm sorry, but I've always been this way. It embarrasses my husband. But if I have to pee, I just pee. I'm sorry, you guys do it. Why can't we do it? But anyway, we were in Collinwood's car, and I opened the front door and the back door, and it opened into the next car, the cars that were parked. Nobody was there. So I got between those two cars, and I squatted down. And all of a sudden, I shouted to Collinwood, "You are not going to believe this bumper sticker." So when we were finished, we came over and looked at it. I got these for both of us. It says, the bumper sticker said, "Die with memories, not dreams." Collinwood and I loved that. If you think about it, he always said, "I want to die with memories. I don't want to die dreaming of what I could have done." You and I are both like that. We just love doing what we love to do. And that was one of our very favorite things. So I'm getting a lot of these made to take to Britt this year because so many people wanted them. So when his sister Linda called the Hobo Museum and told us that we had lost him, it was so just jarring. And I called my sister, who's a pastor, and she was in church that night, and she said, "Stop, just stop right now. This is what I want you to remember. This is the memory I want you to hold on to." And I've asked her to share that memory.
Thank you. My husband used to always say, Gypsy Moon and I are a package deal, so you get us both. It was disturbing when we got this news, but at the Hobo Convention, the Wednesday before the convention starts, the Hobo Church, which CK, Collinwood Kid, CK was a part of, we would host a gathering and we would get together and do church right there in the jungle off to the side under a tree. And this year it was, I don't know what it was. I didn't feel like I wanted to give a message. I felt like I needed to ask a couple of people to give a message. So there are some people in our community that are pretty good storytellers. And but for some reason, I just thought, I need to ask Collinwood. And so I called Gypsy and I said, I think one of the people I need to ask to speak this year is Collinwood. And she said, well, I'm not going to ask him. And I'm like, oh, great. I thought, if you ask him, he'll say yes. And she said, I'm not going to ask him. And I thought, okay. So I found my best, got my nerve built up, and I called Collinwood, and I said, hey, you don't have to give me an answer right now. In fact, I have something for you to pray about. He said, okay. And I said, would you consider sharing your testimony at Hobo Church this year? And I said, you can just get back to me anytime in the next week. And he said, I don't have to do that. I can tell you right now, I'll do it. And I almost fell off my chair because Collinwood is the guy in the background. I mean, I haven't gone to the hobo convention for years and years and decades like some people, but I've been there for several years. And if you ever go, the whole thing just hums. It goes from one event to the next. There's meals that get served. Everything just happens. And behind it all is CK, just making it all happen. He's like the puppeteer, just making the strings happen. He's got a lot of good help, but you just knew it. He has this little corner in the pavilion at the Hobo Jungle where it's kind of his cave. I've always been afraid to go in there, but I got to the convention and I thought I better go find him, because the big thing was he was only going to be allowed to speak for 5 minutes, and that might have been a problem. And Gypsy told me, she said, now you need to make sure he knows 5 minutes. And I'm like, okay. She said, I've told him 5 minutes. And I'm like, okay. So I found him back in the cave. And you guys, it was the day before he was even going to give the testimony. He had his notes laid out, everything laid out, and he was practicing and timing himself. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is such a blessing. I thought he doesn't even have to give a talk at this point. I was just so blessed by that. Anyway, the next day we gather under the big shade tree off in the vacant lot by the jungle, and we had 3 people speaking, and he gave his testimony to his other family. And
That's the hobo community.
The hobo community, and he is so loved by the people there, but because he's always in the background, he's always behind the scenes, he never wants to speak, nobody really got to hear that, and he got to give his testimony. He did it in a little bit over 5 minutes, but he did it. And the thing that I remember from his testimony that I'm going to take away, and I don't know where Pastor went that was here a minute ago, but you know, love your neighbor as yourself. I think a lot of us feel like we've been his neighbor, don't we? I know I have. But he said this is how he starts his day every day. Are you ready? Because we can all take this home, you guys. He said, I pray a prayer to God, and this is what I tell him. I say, God, I want to do stuff for you today. But I'm always getting myself tied up in stuff and busy and distracted and everything else. So God, whatever it is, you put it right in front of me, so close that I have to stumble over it. Because if I don't stumble over it, I'm probably going to miss it. And everybody was just like, that's great, because we do miss stuff. God's got something for all of us. And I just love that sweet, simple little message that he gave. And just in closing, I just wanted to tell you that on his way to the convention this year, and this is a regular occurrence with CK, but he was on his way there pulling a trailer. He and I talked on the phone, and he said, it's 1 lane of traffic, like for miles and miles, because there's construction, and I know you're pulling your camper, so be careful. And he was almost to Britt, and he passed a car on the side of the road, flat tire, a mother and I think 2 children. So, yeah. And he couldn't get over, and he drove by, and it just needled him. He couldn't let it go, you guys. And you know, a lot of us will drive by people broken down on the road, and we say a prayer for them, and we think to ourselves, oh, doggone it, look at that. That's too bad. I hope they get the help they need. CK went up to the next ramp off, went around, came back with his trailer and everything, and somehow found his way off the road, helped that woman, changed the tire, got to Britt later than he thought he was because he had to stop and do something, but that was one of those things God put right in front of him that he had to trip over, and he couldn't let it go because he knew who was giving him the encouragement to stop. He was a beautiful person, and I know in our household, in our family, we're going to miss him. We're going to miss him a lot. He was a great man, a beautiful man.
And my best friend in the whole library.
Absolutely.
We're going to break the sequence a little bit.
Been praying mightily for you all since we heard the sad news. So you all are constantly in our prayers. So just know that. Again, my name is Sherry, and I'm an East Cleveland resident. And actually, I live about maybe 5 blocks away from where Les lived, because Bryn Mawr is on one end of Hayden, and I'm on the other end where the elementary school is. So we were close neighbors. So maybe about 7 years or so ago, I started going back to East Cleveland City Council meetings, right? And so I would go there every Tuesday, and I would see Les there. So we got to be friends from that. And so then I started going to the senior walk with the East Cleveland Walkers seniors, and they're here. We're here today. You guys want to stand up or just wave your hands? So I started going to that, and who would I see there all the time? It would be Les again. So we were friends in that arena. And then there was the East Side Citizens Foundation, another civic group in Cleveland Heights and East Cleveland. And I started going there, and who would I see there all the time? It would be Les. So we just really got to be close friends, because everywhere I went in the city, I would see him, right? So this is what really took the cake for me. So in that last civic group, they were asking for volunteers to register people to vote. So it was only 3 of us that volunteered, myself, Les, and another man named Mark. So the 3 of us was the committee to register people to vote. So I manage a nonprofit, and I promote access for voting for people deaf and hard of hearing. So I needed volunteers. So I said, well, why not ask, Les and Mark to come and volunteer to help me to do that? And guess who showed up? Les. He came. And he worked so well and so diligently with those people who were deaf. And so he just fit right in. He just gave his all and did the best he could. He didn't know their language, but he was there. And that touched my heart, and I'll never forget him for that. So I asked him later, I said, so Les, how was that for you? And he said, interesting. Man, a few words, right? But he got his point across. So again, our hearts are broken for you all, really, this sad tragedy. And so we just wanted to come and share with you all how much we loved Les. And I'll turn it over to Debbie. She's the one that leads our walking.
Our condolences to the family. My name is Debbie. I'm kind of like the leader in a way of texting everyone on Tuesday nights, letting them know where we're going to walk, because we walk in several places. I just want to share with something that's a little eerie for me that I thought was so. The Tuesday night before the fire, I'm texting everybody. And I usually put little emojis, different little things about walking. So we were supposed to have a fire safety meeting that next day on Wednesday. The teachers, a brush up on how to have fire safety. So I had a little fire engine going everywhere, but Les's would not go through. I tell you, this is true. I kept putting the little emoji of the fire engine. It wouldn't go through, but the words I had would go through. I'm going like, I need this emoji on top. So that next morning, after it really went through and it was underneath the words, we hear about this big fire, and it set us back. It set me back. I'm going like, we were supposed to have this fire, thing today to tell us about fire safety. And here we are, our friend is gone. Sorry.
freight train, run so fast. Freight train, run so fast. Please don't tell them which train I'm on, and they won't know which route I'm going. When I'm dead and in my grave, no more good times here I crave. Lay those stones at my head and feet, tell them all I've gone to sleep. When I die, Lord, bury me deep down at the end of Chestnut Street, so I can hear that old number 9 as she goes rolling by. Freight train, run so fast. Freight train, run so fast. Please don't tell them which train I'm on, and they won't know which route I'm going. This one's on you, Greg.
There we go.
Go to sleep, you weary hobo.
I know your clothes are torn and ragged, and your hair is turning gray. Lift your head and smile at trouble. You'll find happiness someday. So go to sleep, you weary hobo. Let the towns drift slowly by. Can't you feel the steel rails humming? That's a hobo's lullaby.
Can I have your attention for a minute? I know a lot of people are wondering about these walking sticks. North Star, my sister and I made 20 of these. They're the only ones that will ever be made. They're limited edition. And I don't know how many are left, North Star. But if anybody's interested in them, you can make a donation to the National Hobo Museum. And right now, any donation you make is double because there's an anonymous donor who's, so like if you would say, do $50, it'll be $100. If you do $100, it'll be $200. And there's a wonderful exhibit in the National Hobo Museum this year commemorating the Collingwood Kid. So if anybody's interested in those, you can talk to my sister back here. We're really hoping that the hobos have walking sticks already. I know some of them want them, but we'd really like to give the people here who don't have walking sticks, the family and the friends, a chance first to get them.
I have a rival line of sweet tea, but I'll take mail orders.
Okay, I'm Les's sister. I'm a year and a half older. And I just wanted to say a few things about our childhood since I was the one that was there. But he always had so many interests, even when he was young. And we would do a lot of fun things, like go out in the woods and build forts, and he would go out and catch snakes. We would go like in these industrial kind of wooded areas and look under tar paper and under old metal and stuff. And well, sometimes he'd bring those snakes home. And my mother wasn't too excited about that. She was really worried once that maybe a snake got through the heating system and was going to pop up in somebody's room because he had some snakes on the back patio. I don't know, that he had so many interests. And then one of the things that I really enjoyed as he got older, I just thought it was so great that he'd always take in the homeless cats. I mean, he had 9 or 12. I forget how many he had altogether. One time I think he maybe had 12 cats, and he'd always make sure they got fixed. He got them fixed, and he'd feed them with his dumpster food, and he just took such good care of those cats. Some of them were only like, some of them might rub on his leg because they weren't domesticated cats. Some of them were just feral cats. But he would always take such good care of those cats. And he also spent a lot of time with the neighborhood kids and took them, he had a swimming pool for a while and watched them in the swimming pool and gave them things to do in the summertime. And I always thought that was just an amazing thing to do. And both of his jobs that he had, he worked for the Sagamore Hills, his first job, and that was a difficult job. It was with teenagers, I think, mostly that had emotional problems. They were locked up basically. But yeah, so he did a lot of caring jobs, and then he worked for the VA and helped people with kidney dialysis. So besides all the other great things he did, both of his jobs were really caring kind of jobs. And yeah, and everybody in the family was totally shocked when we heard about the fire. And I was pretty sure that since we couldn't contact him on the phone and his car was there, he probably didn't make it. So very sad. Okay.
I wish I had taken time to write some things down. I wrote some lyrics for a song that I want to do. And let me get the lyrics that I wrote down.
What input?
The third input. Way out on Bryn Mawr, I smell the wildflowers out along an eerie line. White tails are running, honeybees humming, ripe melons from the vine. We're old to hop the long rides out along an eerie line. Freight trains a haulin', hobos a callin', 4 engines at a time. In our imagination, your trains left the station out along an eerie line. Can't you hear the hose drivers wail? Can't you see those bright rails shine? Gonna catch that morning ride, leave the North Coast far behind. A dead end on Bryn Mawr, wide open boxcar out along an eerie line. They pulled up the tracks, now you're not coming back. Now we can't hardly keep from crying. So long to Dutch, so long to Gypsy, it's Collinwood's final ride. Can't you hear those drivers wail? Can you see those bright rails shine? Gonna catch that morning ride, leave the North Coast far behind.
Yeah, so I'm the little brother. As I wrote on my thing, little brother. I'm 6 years younger than all my siblings, 8 years younger than Les. Being children growing up in the 70s, 60s, and 70s, all my siblings pretty much fled the house immediately as they could after they graduated from high school. But in his 20s, Les actually came back for a time and lived in the house, and it was just myself and he as children left in the house. So I got to know him a little bit better in my teens, and I would pester him relentlessly whenever I was bored. And he would beat me up, and it was all good. But I have one strong memory. For some reason, in the kitchen, asking him about what language he took in high school. And I pushed him very hard. Just say something in French. How many years did you take French? Just say something in French. And he resisted, because he can be really stubborn. If you want him to do something, he just won't do it. But finally, he wrote 3 words on a piece of paper, handed it to me, and walked out of the room. And it said, "C'est la vie." Perhaps apropos for today. So Les was also, he was a big music aficionado, and he was very fond of a band from the late 60s, early 70s, the Moody Blues. This band, and he and I traveled to many shows of the Moody Blues at Blossom Music Center. It was fantastic. But this band would insert spoken poetry into some of their songs. And I think Les took some of this to heart during his life. I'd like to recite one poem that I think could be conceived a bit as being about how to live one's life, or even the end of life reckoning. After he had journeyed and his feet were sore, he was tired. He came upon an orange grove, and he rested. And he lay in the cool. And while he rested, he took to himself an orange and tasted it, and it was good. And he felt the earth to his spine, and he asked, And he saw the tree above him, and the stars, and the veins in the leaf, and the light, and the balance. And he saw magnificent perfection, whereon he thought of himself in balance, and he knew he was. And he thought of those he angered, for he was not a violent man. And he thought of those he hurt, for he was not a cruel man. He thought of those he frightened, for he was not an evil man. And he understood himself. Upon this, he saw that when he was of an anger, or knew hurt, or felt fear, it was because he was not understanding. And he learned compassion. With his eye of compassion, he saw his enemies like unto himself, and learned love. And then he was answered. As some of you may know, Les really loved Christmas and Christmas time in general. When our two children, Anita and Walter, were very young, Les gave us a movie for them to watch. It was called The Snowman. There was no dialogue in the movie at all, just a visual depiction of a snowman that came to life on midnight and Christmas Eve. Our children loved that movie. They would literally squeal with joy every time we watched it, particularly when the snowman came to life. That movie became an annual ritual for us at Christmas. There was one song with words in that movie when the snowman was flying with a young child throughout the world. So please listen to that song later in this service. Eli has inserted it into some of the music that's going to play at the end. As most of us that know Les for a long time remember, Les was a very positive person. In nearly every photo from his youth, he was smiling, and it was not a forced smile. One final little phrase from another Moody Blues song that I feel Les would have liked others to take to heart following this service. Face piles of trials with smiles. It riles them to believe that you perceive the web they weave, and keep on thinking free. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My husband has begged me to tell this story that I may have told some of you already. But I think Daniel was involved in this when they were riding in the Cadillac cars on the freight train through Bellefontaine, and they got busted. But before the Bellefontaine police took them to the police station, they stopped for ice cream. And there was something else I wanted to say about fire safety. My husband had an accident a couple years ago. He got burned badly. And if we would have had fire blankets, which you can get on Amazon, real easy, it could have turned out a little better. But he was crawling through the flames trying to find a hose. And so now we have 2 fire blankets, one in the house and one in the barn. Oh, we've got more than 2. So if you haven't any of those, I would encourage you to get one, put it in your home.
They come in handy for lithium-ion battery fires. And the rail cars with the police, they actually were in the cars, and they found that they all come back then with the keys in the ignition. So he started the cars and ran them to get the air conditioning because it was too hot out. So they were caught in the cars on the rails with the cars running, and they were using the AC in them.
But apparently the police agreed it was too hot, so they stopped for ice cream.
And then Betsy had a birthday party at our house some years back, and he just came from dumpster diving at Drug Mart, Aldi's, and brought a whole van full of roses in pots that were expired, and gave all the women at the party a bouquet of roses. So he was like the person of the night because of that. And he used to garbage pick the cameras? No, well, the cameras. He did come to the party one night with a van full of disposable cameras that he had gotten out of the dumpster. And I mean, they weren't expired yet, but they would eventually. But the funniest one was when he would go to Trader Joe's. That's where he'd get his food. And he was always concerned about losing the privilege of getting stuff out of the dumpsters for himself when he was done. And I always thought that was amazing, because to think that ahead of time, So that was I remember him the most for that. Thanks.
And those flowers lasted forever.
Yeah, they lasted a couple of weeks, so they weren't expired.
Everybody talks about his dumpster diving, and I kind of feel privileged. We were in Britt this past convention, and he was going to go to, not Force, pardon me? No, clear over across. He was going to go to Mason City, and I needed something in Mason City. So I said, do you mind if I ride along? And he said, no, come on, let's go. So we went, and I found what I was looking for, and he found what he was looking for. And he says, I'm going over to Aldi's. They've got a neat repeats, or not neat repeats, but he said they've got a really cheap counter back there in the back. And I've never been with him dumpster diving. Didn't think anything about it. I'm going to learn something. So he goes around behind Aldi's, and I guess he'd been there earlier in the week and scored pretty well. And he said, now you just sit here and watch. And he reaches in the back, and he's got this stick that he carried. It's a thing that you squeeze, and it grabs stuff. All of you that know him know about it, but I didn't. And he goes over, and he goes through the thing, and he comes back with a box. Stay here. Goes over and gets some more stuff. Came back to the car, and he said, man, Gene, there's a lot of stuff in there, but I just don't have time to get it out today. And I never thought much about it. I didn't realize we were going dumpster diving. And I guess I was the last person to go dumpster diving with him. And you all know how much he loved to do that, and how many people that he helped with what he did. Thank you.
Actually, we'll go with Willis Tabron.
So first, just want to say condolences to the family. For all that don't know me, Matt Mills, that's my best friend. And Les was like a father. Well, he was basically Matt's father. When you meet somebody as a teenager, first time I meet Les, we meet everybody. I would always come get Matt, and we're about to go hang out, party, and do whatever. Born and raised in East Cleveland, we're going to find something to get into. But every time I would see Les, he would always have all these snacks. Honey buns, graham crackers, whatever you want, he just always say, here. I didn't find out where he was getting these snacks to. So I'm in my 30s. I'm like, Matt, you never told me where he was getting all these honey buns from. He was giving them to me by the boxes. I'm just 16, 15, 14. I'm eating them and giving them to everybody. And they ain't tell me till I'm in my 30s, like, Les got those in the dumpster, right? I'm like, y'all really waited till I was in my 30s to tell me this. But Les always, he always helped me. Like, he even helped me 2025, 2024. He always gave us advice. He would always tell us, like, if you do it again, I'm not going to help you. but he would always still end up helping me and Matt. So only thing I got to say is just good things. He always gave us good advice. Always told us, if you wanted to make it out of East Cleveland, you got to work hard. Doesn't matter where you start, always about how you finish. And really had so many talks with me and Matt, mainly Matt. Matt was the one that was always in trouble. But he really touched Matt. He changed Matt around. Matt's in school doing the right things. And Les always just had Matt back. And if you were a friend of Matt, you were a friend of Les, Les was going to do whatever for you. So I just want to say my condolences to the family. I don't think you're ever going to be able to meet another gentleman like Les, because he would just help anyone from just not just people, animals. I remember one time I went upstairs on the second floor, and you got all these boxes. Les had a lot of everything, like whatever you needed. If you needed a thermometer, a fishing rod, he just had everything you needed. So I go up there, it's Halloween, I go upstairs, and a spider come down out the ceiling. I about jumped out the window, and Matt laughed. He said, "It's not real, it's not real." I said, "Man, Les got too much stuff in here." But Les was just a great guy. And I don't know where he got the honey buns from, but they were really good. Thank you.
Val Turner. Very sure who went. Let's go with Daniel.
Good evening. There are so many wonderful testimonials about last time. I'm Dan Downing. I wish I wasn't here tonight, but I can't not be here tonight. A lot of names going around, Les and Leslie and Colin Woodkid. For me, it was always Lester. I was Daniel. I think we first met back in junior high school on the AV squad, the audio-visual people. We would take film strip projectors to everybody else's classrooms, and that's where it all started. It was one of the first train hopping experiences Lester had was with me and Tim and a couple of people that aren't here tonight. And it looked like that stuck. He kept on hopping till he couldn't hop no more. It was a privilege to have him in my life, and I wouldn't have turned out the way I was without him. Rest in peace.
So the situation was that there was a group that I was involved with that was putting food on Public Square for folks. It definitely was for homeless people, but it was far more than that. Most of the people were just folks that didn't have the wherewithal to really keep a home going. In Cleveland, a lot of the homes are, especially during the winter, terrible shape. Can't keep a kitchen going, can't keep your facility, you just can't keep it going. So we were getting a lot of people who just needed a place to be on a Sunday afternoon. Les showed up at the right time. He had a pickup truck. He was more than willing to help provide food. We had a couple of food runs where we would show up at grocery stores and bakeries and things right as they closed and would take their day-old bread. And then Les had incredible capacity to add to that with certainly dumpster dived food. There was a lot of surplus food around. And Les would provide a lot of the wherewithal to get things done. The pickup truck, he'd spend the time. It was great. So that was for almost 8 years. during that time, Les didn't ask for anything. There was a point where everything switched to something called Occupy Cleveland. And during that time, Les was probably one of the bigger providers for food for Occupy Cleveland, and that went daily for about 8 months. Les did a lot. One of the other organizations that I was working with at the time was called FMB, but it's Occupy Cleveland. And then there was, once the organizations had problems, we kept it going. Still kind of goes on to this day. But Les had this thing where I think people have kind of hinted at it, showing up with a lot of food. There would be times where he would go up to Endemans or Aladdin's, and we're talking 500 boxes of Little Debbie cakes, which when you're on, out in the open public square, it's kind of is a delight to track families down and say, hey, help yourself. It was kind of cool. At times, Les was the only person that was able to get food for this or that weekend, and it would come from dumpsters. But the fact of the matter is, sometimes he would come up with better food than what we would get on donations. It was amazing. He would come up with the expensive food, and we would have the kind of trivial lentils and whatever else. So a lot gets owed to Les. I want to thank everybody for being here. It's very meaningful. Thanks.
If John could come up, John.
The writer Connie Schultz said, I want to be thoroughly used up by the time I die. And if you think about what you've heard tonight, you heard about a man who has touched all these lives, and lives of thousands and thousands of people that are not here. I represent parts of his life that at Sagamore Hills Children's Psychiatric Hospital, and at Food Strong, and at Community Greenhouse Partners. The Children's Psychiatric Hospital is a locked facility where the kids were a danger to themselves or others. Everybody from a 5-year-old to someone who's 18. It's locked. And one of the things that we were able to do was make it full of life. We were able to reach children because we had perception into them as people. And whenever they would get in trouble, we'd do something called remediate. Remediate was just, what'd you do? What's going on? How are you feeling? What are we going to do next time? But the key to that whole thing, and why we still meet every year, even though it's been closed for 20 years, is because it was such a valuable thing for all of us. And we learned that grace that you learn from helping someone else, that you get something too. Les's life was full, not because he gave, and also because he received. I want to point out that what I saw from the back of this room is a grace that's between all this diverse group. You can almost slice it with a knife. That's less. That is less. I laughed with him. I mean, Kevin was talking about dumpster diving, you know. I hadn't seen him for 10 years, and all of a sudden I see him because I'm with an organization called Community Greenhouse Partners. I've run into him, and I'm the board chair, and I'm going through the place, the house we had, and every refrigerator and freezer I open has a cow worth of meat in it. And it's because he's dumpster dived and he didn't have anywhere to put it, but he's gonna take it somewhere else. And you just sort of freak out a little bit, but he was also our bee person. He taught bees, he enjoyed it. He enjoyed the people, and the people really enjoyed him. East Cleveland became a real anchor for him, but it was an accident. We were at Sagamore, and Les goes, because he was always into weird things, he goes on the HUD site, bids on a property blindly, and it happens to be in East Cleveland. 30 years later, 35 years later, he is an essential part of that community. He is touched so many people in East Cleveland. Whenever you go there, and I go to Coit Road Farmers Market, I'll go, do you know Les the Bee Man? We didn't call him the Collinwood Kid, but he's had all these names. And I sit there and was thinking of the Connie Schultz quote. And I think he didn't really die. He just got all used up. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you, John. Luther the Jet. If there's anyone else that wants to speak, please go and sign up with that sign-up sheet right over here on the right.
Thank you, Eli. My name is Luther the Jet, as you just heard. I'm former king of the hobos twice. Now, that's 29 years in between reigns, and I told him I ran so many times for king of the hobos out there. Finally, I said 2 years ago, I'm 86 years old. If you don't elect me pretty soon, you won't have another chance, right? So they finally bought the old used car, you know, one more time. But since I got elected, we wanted to run around the country and, you know, rattle as many cages as we could. So our queen, Nurse Tuffy back there for 24, very, very graciously arranged to have a gathering up in Green Bay, because that's where she lives, and she's still working, so she couldn't go anywhere else. So everybody said, well, we'll go to Green Bay. So I live in Pennsylvania, so I said, well, I kind of would like to get a ride to Green Bay. Maybe I'll call, you probably know who that would be. So Les says, oh, yeah, come on out on the bus to Cleveland, and we'll go to Green Bay. So we did. And now the way things have turned out, I was really glad to have that ride with him to Green Bay and just be with him, you know what I mean, and talk and all that type of thing. But everybody is talking about how he helped everybody else. And I just heard a story this morning from the Texas Madman. It's so typical of the Texas Madman, too, but it's so typical of Les. They started going, the Madman's about maybe 65, Les was, 68. They started going to the Hobos Convention out in Britt in the 80s. So I think the Madman said he first got there in 88, and he said Les came about 1990. Does that sound right, Gypsy Moon? about 1990, and I got there in 80, 88, something like that. Anyway, Hobo's Convention in 1990, Britt, Iowa. They're all done, you know, bloviating out there and having fights and everything, what they do. And they decided they wanted to go out to see New York Ronnie. And the New York Ronnie at that time was in prison, and he was out at the Montana State Penitentiary. He was a wonderful guy. Ronnie was. Most people in the Hobos remember Ronnie. He was a shoplifter, but he wasn't a very good shoplifter because I don't know what, he never polished his trade very well. He maybe should have turned to pickpocketing, I don't know what, but anyway, he shoplifted and shoplifted and shoplifted, and he got arrested and he got arrested and he got arrested. Finally, some judge out in Montana, you really gave him some solid time in the Montana State Pen out in Deer Lodge. So Collinwood, of course, wants to go out to see him, right? Well, let's go after the Hobos Convention. We'll go out to Montana and see New York Ronnie. And so they decided to go over to Grand Junction, Wisconsin, which is a wonderful place to catch a ride out to the West Coast. They got a ride out there right just like that on the Burlington Northern. And they got to clear all the way out to Havre, Montana. Then things got dicey because the Deer Lodge is not on the Great Northern. So they decided they would take a branch line freight down to Shelby, Montana. So they pull into Shelby one evening. And the train is terminating at Shelby. It's on a branch line. And then they didn't know how they're going to get to Deer Lodge. So they get off the train. They're walking down the street. Here's an IGA supermarket, okay, with a 20 cubic foot dumpster sitting right beside the street. And so Colin says, oh, let's go over and take a look at that. So they went over, and some big fat man, the madman says, the manager, you know, came out and said, what the hell are you doing in my dumpster? You know, get the hell out of here. And so they vamoosed down the street a little ways, and then they got down there, and Colin said, I got to go back and see what the hell is in that dumpster. So they went back. Nobody came out of the store the second time. And they found, like it was a sugar fest. It was 3 sheet cakes with vanilla icing on, 20-some watermelons, and 3 cases of soda pop. So they had the ultimate sugar fest of all time doing this. And then they had eaten their fill and drunk their fill, and here comes a train. So the madman says, come on, we got to get on this train. Colin said, no, we got to take all this stuff back to the freight station because somebody else might want the rest of it. So they grabbed whatever was left of the sheet cakes and the watermelons and the soda pop, and they took it down to the freight station. See what the moral of the story is? He was always thinking of somebody else and what they might do. And he thought well of the madman, too. The madman is over, I have to tell you right now, in the Eastbrook nursing home. He's listening to this program. And he would very, very much, he's had a big accident. Colin would help him out through the accident and everything, but he was paralyzed from the waist down. And some people here know the madman, and he would very much like to have company. 17322, I was over there this morning, that's where I heard that story, 17322 Euclid Avenue. And he's trying to get through some rehab over there, so he would appreciate a visit. One evening as the sun went down and the jungle fire was burning, down the path came a hobo hiking, and he said, boys, I'm not turning. I'm going to a land that's far away beside the crystal fountain. So come along with me, we're going to see the Big Rock Candy Mountain. In the Big Rock Candy Mountain, there's a land so fair and bright, where the boxcars all are empty and your barns are full of hay. And I'm bound to go where there ain't no snow and the rain don't fall and the wind don't blow, in the Big Rock Candy Mountain. In the Big Rock Candy Mountain, you never change your socks, and the little streams of alcohol come a-trickling down the rocks. There ain't no short-handled shovels, no axes, picks, or spades, and I'm bound to stay where they sleep all day, where they hung the Turk that invented work in the Big Rock Candy Mountain. In the Big Rock Candy Mountain, the jails are made of tin, and you can walk right out again just as soon as you go in. There the railroad bulls have all gone blind, and the shacks all tip their hats. There's a lake of stew, the dumpsters are full. You can paddle all around them like you were in school in the Big Rock Candy Mountain. There we go.
If we have any other speakers to come up, if not, I'm going to do a quick slideshow of photos and then a quick music on there. So let me just set that up. Hello, hello, hello. In the meantime, as we're waiting to get another battery for this projector, I'm just gonna share a few stories of Les. If you could quiet down in the back. All the hobos are looking at the staffs. They look very good. I might buy one later. Uncle Les. So many memories that we shared. Uncle Les is my closest uncle. I was living in Athens growing up, and sorry, guys. Thank you, Gypsy Moon. I'm Eli. I'm Les's nephew. I'm just gonna share a few stories I think that are very Lester. When I was 13, Les, he loves roller coasters. He brought me to Kings Island to his favorite roller coaster called the Vortex, which has 2 loops. And he took me there when I was 13 on this roller coaster called the Vortex, and Les, he was so excited to bring me to Kings Island. I have motion sickness, so I knew it was going to be a very bad day. And I've warned him about this, and Les tells me, you know what? You have a new nickname, the BBB. I was like, what's that? The Barf Bag Boy. And that nickname stuck with me for like 10 years. He came back 10 years later with the rest of my family. Les traveled very frequently with my mother and I he's been to Belize with us. He even invested with my mother on this little shed of a house that was like, probably like 4 miles out of town, that has now become a restoration site for archaeologists who were like working on a Mayan ruin there. But Les has traveled with us frequently, and there was this time when we went to Costa Rica together, and my mother was taking her afternoon nap, as she does, between 1 and 2, strictly. And Les, being the adventurous uncle he is, he's like, let's go swimming. Let's go in the ocean. So I'm 13, I'm an okay swimmer, and we were swimming, and we had not noticed that the riptide, they have flags there. And you see, it changes from I think, like green, yellow, red. It changed to red, unbeknownst to us. And we were swimming in the water and swimming, and it was fine. And then we're getting a little further out, and then a little further out, and then both of us go under. Whoosh. We're taken underwater, and then next thing we know, we're out in the sea, and there's these big waves coming down on us, just crashing. And Les is looking at me, I'm looking at him, and I'm like, I'm gonna die. He's like, no, I'm gonna save you. I'm like, please, someone. And we're getting exhausted, and I'm screaming out, and then Les, he can't quite reach, and he told me he like just started to reach, like his big toe was hitting the sand, and then this lifeguard came out of nowhere and swooped me up, then dragged him in, and we were fine. And afterwards he told me, he's like, yeah, you know, if you had gone down that moment, I would have gone down with you, because I'm not going down. I'm not telling your mother I lost her only son. But, you know, as the adventurous uncle, he was also very protective. He had always been there when I feel like I needed it most. So Uncle Les will always have that special place in my heart. Trying to think if there's any other. There was, in 2014, Les had always talked about the bridge. And you could see these fireworks just started going by. I looked at Les, he looked at me, and we just sat there in silence for like 10, 15 minutes. And the train went on going. And then 12 hours, we were, after little poor sleep, 12 hours, we were, after little poor sleep, and the train stopped. And we were very confused because there was no yard out there. And then we were just sitting, hanging out, and I think my mother was like using the restroom, and like Les was like prepping something, and then we heard, hey you! And there was 3 cops, a sheriff and 2 deputies, just like probably like, I don't know, like 100 meters off. And we're like, oh no, quick, pack your things. And they took us in separate vehicles, and they questioned all of us separately, because they're like, who are these people? Have you been kidnapped? I was like, no. That is my mother.
We're walking in the air. We're floating in the moonlit sky. Children gaze open mouthed, taken by surprise. Nobody down below believes their eyes. We're surfing in the air. We're swimming in the frozen sky. We're drifting over icy mountains floating suddenly swooping low on an ocean deep, rousing up a mighty monster from his sleep. We're walking in the air. We're dancing in the midnight sky. Everyone who sees us greets us as we fly. We're walking in the
I was told Wisconsin will be doing the hobo shuffle. Is Wisconsin here? Okay, thank you.
We can even put you on a channel. Get around 3? Oh, but Wisconsin takes 3. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll put her whatever channel you want to use. Actually just put her, can we just put you in front of the microphone? I won't be singing.
I don't know the words, though.
Oh. Yeah, Mike the guitar. Kind of ran out of channel.
Can you get this mic lower?
I'm sure it'll
be singing in that one. We get a third
I don't need a mic. But he'll need a mic. And he'll need that. He'll need that channel going.
Do you have the words to the song?
No, but I got the melody.
Okay.
And I got the cello part already.
Alrighty.
So I am kind of doing it sight unseen.
Just pull the block towards you.
Terrible game.
It's clear.
Eli, can you plug his
I didn't need one.
channel into the...
Yeah, what is that one?
That is 3, I think. Yeah, yeah.
Living out on the rails, learning to tell a lot of tales, always finding time to rest. Jump a train and take a ride, make it feel what you feel inside. Always something later that you can do the best. Do the hobo shuffle, the hobo shuffle, the hobo shuffle. Do the hobo shuffle. There ain't nothing to it, you just gotta do it. Do the hobo shuffle, hobo shuffle, the hobo shuffle, hobo shuffle. Just get into it, and anybody can do it. The hobo shuffle. Hey, there is old Luther the Jet. He ain't done running for king yet. Everywhere he goes, his feet get wet. But people don't judge and they just let it be, like the hobo shuffle, hobo shuffle, hobo shuffle, the hobo shuffle. If you don't know how to do it, just get out and do it, the hobo shuffle. There is old Dancing Dutch. Oh, he likes to fool around some, but not too much. When the time is done for play, he'll help you anyway and do the hobo shuffle, hobo shuffle, the hobo shuffle, the hobo shuffle. You don't know how to do it, but you just get to it. Do the hobo shuffle, hobo shuffle. Well, sitting to my left is Dudley, a nice fellow, playing that bow on that old worn-out cello. It sure sounds good, it sure sounds mellow. Do the hobo shuffle, the hobo shuffle. Do the hobo shuffle, the hobo shuffle. Do it now and do it good, 'cause we are doing it for the Collinwood. Do the hobo shuffle, the hobo shuffle, the hobo shuffle, the hobo shuffle. You don't know how to do it, just get into to do the hobo shuffle, the hobo shuffle, the hobo shuffle, the hobo shuffle. We're gonna end it now, the hobo shuffle. Always improvise, always the best. Did you ever play any John Prine with Lynn?
I can do.
That's a C. Well, we can do G too. Let's see. Might be too loud. There was a time when lonely men would wander through this land, rolling aimlessly along. Down through the years, many men have yearned for freedom. Some have found it only on the open road. Too many times their blood has fell around us. But you can't always do what you are told. Please tell me, where have all the hobos gone to? Well, I see no fire burning down by the rusty railroad tracks. Could it be the time has gone away and left them tied up in life's eternal traveling sack? Well, last Sunday night, I wrote a letter home to my loved ones. And when I signed my name, I knew I'd stayed away much too long. 'Cause there was a time when my heart was free to wander. And I remember it now as I sang this hobo song. Please tell me where have all the hobos gone to? I see no fires burning down by the rusty railroad track. Could it be the time has gone away and left them tied up in life's eternal traveling sack? Yeah, tied up in life's eternal traveling sack. Thank you. When I was a child, my parents would travel down to western Kentucky where their parents were born. There's a backward old town that's often remembered so many times that my memories are worn. And Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train has hauled it away. The coal company came with the world's largest steam shovel. They cut all the timber and they tortured the land. They dug for the coal till the ground was forsaken and wrote it all down as the progress of man. And Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train has hauled it away. Oft times we would wander right down the Green River to that old abandoned prison down by Adrie Hill, where the air smelled like snakes and we chewed with our pistols, but any empty pop bottles was all that we'd kill. When my die, let my ashes flow down the Green River, let my soul drift on up to the Rochester Dam. I'll be halfway to heaven with paradise waiting 5 miles away from wherever I am. Oh, Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train has hauled it away. Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train has hauled it away. Right after John Prine died, I got a sympathy card from Collinwood Kid. I still have it.
What's the song? Ashokan Farewell.
Know that song, Shokin' Farewell?
beautiful, though. It is a beautiful song.
You know, Angel from Montgomery?
I don't. I know the song, but I don't know how to play it. I've never. I'm an old woman. That one. I don't know. I don't know. I know late John Garfield blues. You heard that? Black faces. Black faces pressed against the sun, where the wind has spread blown stars and top-down stars all share one western grave. This leaks through tear-stained cheeks, from the winos to the dime store Jews. Probably don't know they give me those late John Garfield blues.
Hello, everyone. Quick announcement. In Les's nature, there is leftover food and to-go containers in the kitchen there. So if you want to take food to go, please go ahead and do that now and clear out whatever remaining food is over there. You have to dive for it, yes. There'll be diving involved. We'll put all the food in the dumpster out back, and then you get the containers.